Hello and welcome to another Workout Wednesday walkthrough. This week is week 45. We are looking at a cross highlight table built by Roddy Zakovich. This is a workout that I don't anticipate being entirely difficult and one that I anticipate being highly useful in the workplace. So I'm excited to get started and see if we can build this. Let's get going. All right, so let's scroll down to the instructions and see if we can start to build out this table. I'm not seeing anything too difficult, as I said, and I think the hardest part is just going to be getting the highlighting to work and finding the appropriate combination of set actions to make that work. So we have two parameters here that control the y-axis and the x-axis. Subcategory is selected here, region selected there. If we navigated over to Roddy's public viz, we can see those parameters in action. If I change this, we'll get categories here, and we'll still have segment there. If I change this, we'll get region across the top, and we'll still have category there. So this doesn't really, it's nothing new, right? We've built this a million times by now. So let's go ahead and just build those out so we can get the table built, and then we can start working on the highlighting. So I'm just going to go ahead and create two parameters, and I'm going to name them exactly how Roddy has them. I'm going to make the values a string, and I'm just going to go in here and do category and subcategory. Okay, so I have one parameter done. I'm going to duplicate that, rename it x-axis. We're going to do segment and region. Okay, now we can go ahead and show those. It's always nice to just see the parameters, which helps me build the calculations. Sometimes these parameter lists are much longer than two, so it can take a while to build them out if you're not actually seeing them. Okay, so now we have one field built. If you're not familiar with this, all I'm doing is looking at the selection of the x-axis parameter, and then just swapping out which dimension I want to pull in based on that selection. And that's really all there is to it. I can duplicate this and create a y-axis field and just swap out some of the wording. So we don't want x-axis, we want y. We don't want segment, we want category. We don't want region, we want subcategory. And then we can just pull in the appropriate fields. Okay, we're done. So now we can drag these out and start to see this table take shape. And if we look at Roddy's, we can do category and region. So we have category, region. We can plot sales, which we're balancing out to 163,797 in the top left corner, 251,992 in the bottom right corner. So we have the right data, we have the right parameters, we have the right dimensions, and we can start to build out the rest. So let's see what the rules are. I mean, we're practically done here. So we have a dashboard, we can do that later. We have two parameters, we did that already. And create a crosstab that shows sales based on the parameter selection. Okay, which we did. On hover, highlight all values in the same YX column as the mark being hovered over. Set actions aren't quite working on public, so I encourage you to download the workbook and view in 2018. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to peek at anything, but I will look at the dashboard because I do want to see the true functionality of this highlight action. If this is not working how it is intended to work on Tableau Public, we're not going to have a good time trying to get the right answer. So do yourself a favor, download the workbook that Roddy provided, but don't go to sheet 1. Just look at the dashboard. It still doesn't seem to be working entirely how it's intended to work. I think the main point is if we get this table highlighting to work. So we want a user to be able to hover over these marks on the inside, the marks themselves, not the headers, and get that kind of crosshair type of functionality. So I'm on this 5943 value. I can see the row that it belongs to, and I can see the column that it belongs to. So let's go back to our workbook and try to get that to happen. I'm going to go into the formatting here and just take off everything. We can go and click on Show Me, and I can actually just make this a highlight table right away, which might not be the ticket, right? But it helped me build out this same setting that Roddy has for us. I can move things around to get them in the same format as Roddy has, so now everything's center aligned, and we don't want sales to be on color. We're going to build out a set action. So let's just focus in on one mark, and if we get one mark right, we should be able to get the rest right. So we could look at this, and I could hover over this mark, and the way set actions work is I would add the value I'm hovered over to a set. So what I want to do is actually create two sets from our dynamic dimensions here. So we're going to say this is the x-axis set. We're going to put one value in it. It doesn't really matter. Tableau is going to override this when we configure our set action. We're going to build a y-axis set. We're going to put one value in there as well. And what I think I want to do is just build one color field that is based on the combination of those two sets. I'm going to name it something really dumb like color, and we're just going to look at those two sets. So we can simply look at it this way, x-axis set or y-axis set, and what that is saying is find the values that are true and give me a true false based on those. So right now that would be the two values that we selected initially. So now I have this kind of grid, and let's see if we can narrow it down to one mark. I was looking at this one specifically, this office supplies and east. So I'm going to go in here and change this set to that. I'm going to do this manually, right? We're going to tell Tableau to do this in a little bit. But now I have this like highlight grid. And if I go back to Roddy's and change this to category, change this to region, and we could look at the office supplies in east, and we're probably going to get that same T. So you can see mine is starting to look that way here. What I might want to do is actually just change this to ones and zeros. This was working how I wanted it to with a continuous field. So I'm going to go change my color calculation to be 1 or 0. So now this will do the same thing. We're looking at both sets. And if it matches that set, we're going to give it 1, else we're going to give it a 0. We can go to this now and change it to continuous, which gives us that same like look and feel. And we can go into our color scale and just change this to a 2-step color, which is essentially using a continuous field in a discrete type of way. And we can go down, I don't think this really, we just need this other side. So if we have any diverging scale, we can go in, change this to white on one end, change this to gray on another end. Let's just pick black for now. And go up here and grab any gray. And we have that grid. So we have a continuous measure, or continuous dimension, and we're using it as a discrete kind of color palette, which is kind of cool functionality. And here let's just go ahead and add a border. It looks to be in the same color as our gray, potentially, but that's all just kind of gravy. We don't really care. It looks like we have essentially everything done. So let's bring it over to the dashboard and see if we can just finish this up in a couple minutes here. I think this would be a new record, so I'm actually pretty excited to get this one done quickly. So we had 520 by 560, I think is what Roddy said. We have one sheet, which is totally fine. I'm just going to show the title. We're going to rename this to cross filters or cross highlight. Cross database filtering is old news now. Set actions are the new king. We are going to drag our sheet here, which is going to bring those two parameters onto the view. I'm just going to move things around a tiny bit. Actually, just going to put a horizontal here so I know for a fact that I'll be able to get my two parameters where I want them. So we have y-axis, x-axis. We can get rid of this entire container because the color legend doesn't matter. And we can build this out. So let's hide our labels. Here, let's hide our title here. Let's change these to compact lists. Okay, so we have title, two parameters, a worksheet that looks very similar to Roddy's. We can see nothing's really changed. We're using pretty default stuff. The exercise here is just to configure the set actions. It's not a design exercise. It doesn't have to be pretty, but this is actually very functional, and I think will be really cool in the office. So let's go ahead and finish this out. And like I said, at the worksheet level, we have these sets hard-coded to a certain value right now. We need to go configure the set action to actually change those into what we want them to on hover. So we can set our x-axis set, and we could just name this something like change x. Excuse me. And what I'm really interested in is what happens when you're off. So it looks like everything gets removed. So this is the setting we want, remove all values from set. So when a user hovers over one of the x-axis marks, right now it would be region, that's going to add that value to the set. So if we look here at the 117.299 in the south region, if I hover over that mark, south gets added to the x-axis set that we built and overrides the one that we hard-coded at the worksheet level. We're going to do the same for the y-axis set. So we're going to go here, change this, and do the same, remove all values. So we have change x, change y, on hover, and remove all values when you're off. So let's go see if we have this right. That's a little strange. Let's see what happens if we alter this a little bit. Let's change these to keep. So every time I move my mouse around, I know that Tableau is going to hone in on one combination of those two rows. Yeah, this looks a little better and more similar to Roddy's. And let's see if I mouse off the screen. It's not showing the same as Roddy's does. But let's go to his workbook and see what happens there. I think maybe his is add all values to the set, and the color's just backwards. So let's go ahead and do that. Add all values. Add all values. And I navigate off. Yeah, so I think we can figure this out. We just need to go back to our worksheet and play with the color a little bit. So let's change this to none. We're going to look at central. We're going to look at furniture, and we're going to get this shape. And I'm going to go in here and actually just reverse these. Okay, so I think this might be the ticket. So let's go back to our dashboard. The set action's already configured. And we're looking okay. So if I navigate off, adds all values to the set, which is what we want. You know, I don't really like that very much. Let's go back. That's a lot of undoing. Oh well. Okay, so let's go to our actions. I need to move on. We can go here. We can say keep set values. I really think it should be removed though. This one's kind of bugging me. So we go here, we can say remove all values from the set. Remove all values from the set, which should set everything to white. I think this is definitely our continuous thing that's kind of screwing us up. So what if I just did square? You know what, I'm going to do a different trick that I like to do. So if I change this to a Gantt, and then we go in here, just give our Gantts a size of 1, and bump this up. And now we can use our discrete that makes a little more sense to me. So let's go back to our color and change it back to how we had it in the first place. So using a Gantt bar is just one other way to build a highlight table that I like to do, and it gives us a little more flexibility in my eyes as far as using color that the square mark wasn't giving us. And I think this will work out now. Let's change this to our gray. Let's change this to white. Let's go back to our dashboard and make sure we're configured to remove all, which is what this is supposed to do. Remove all, remove all. Okay, so that's working how we want it to. What is going on with this sheet? Why does it look weird on the dashboard? That's really bizarre. Let's turn off our borders. Now I'm not getting anything. What is happening here? Oh, when I removed the sheet, it took off the set action. This is bizarre behavior. Just going to remove borders, go back, and see what we look like, which is looking terrible on the dashboard level. So maybe I don't want to go with this solution either. I really want to get this one right. I feel like I'm super close, and things just aren't working out how I want them to. Sometimes when you do move things to standard and back, you'll get that effect that you want, but I'm not seeing that here. So maybe we do need to go with the square mark. Not looking right either. This is very frustrating. Okay, sorry. I hope you're done already. I hope you're not struggling like me. But I am. I really want to get this one right. This is usually where I would say, I don't care. I'm going to move on. But this one seems easier than it. This one seems a little harder than it should be at this point. I'm not sure what's happening with all this. So let's go ahead and figure this out. Again, we have our square mark. Okay. Let's go back to a good place. We have this. We have a color field, which we are going to place on color. We are going to make it continuous, which will give us the right layout. We have this screwing things up here. We can go back and check things out. And the only thing that's happening that's really strange is everything's moving to gray because there's not 2 steps. So this is going from 0 to 0, and it's not working out for us. So let's see what happens if we change this from 0 to null. And actually, with an if statement, you don't need an else null. If you just leave the else off, everything is null. So there's our white color. And I think this is what was missing. And now I feel really, really stupid because everything is working how I want it to. And when I navigate off, we get no color, which is what we wanted in the first place. Let's add our border back on. Check the highlighting on the dashboard. And we are looking good. When I navigate off, things are looking fine. So to summarize what was going on, we did need this continuous dimension to make the table work appropriately in my solution, the direction I took. As Anne would say, you can take whatever direction you want. It's going to lead you to the right place or the wrong place. And the direction I was taking was leading us to the right place. I just had one thing kind of off. So what we did was actually take away the 0. We didn't want a value. We wanted null. So if you're in the set, if you're in either set, you're going to get a 1, and everything else is just nothing. It's the absence of a value. And that gave us this color scale that we really wanted. Still a 2-step color scale, but when there's nothing there, it goes to white. So here we are on our dashboard. We are done. I'm going to save this to Tableau Public and publish this video for you all. I hope you didn't get hung up on something really stupid like I did. And I hope you had a good time watching this video. And I hope that you are getting a good feel for set actions. I know I sure am getting a better feel for these after doing these last 2 workouts. And look out for me as a guest poster next week, which will have even more set action fun. So hopefully after weeks 44, 45, and 46, we will all feel a lot more comfortable with this new feature that is proving to be really powerful in enabling a lot of things that we couldn't do before. So I hope you enjoy your day. I hope you enjoy the video, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.